avoiding false starts when you franchise your business. Number one, you will put yourself in the driver's seat if you view franchising as a legal relationship first. I'm not saying it's everything. Next step, now that you're in the driver's seat, you're empowered. As you start evaluating your first 1, 2, or 3 franchisees, you learn more about the discovery process, where you're good, where you're not good, where you need more support. Learn what you don't know and make strategic decisions where you spend your capital efficiently. Next is you need to understand it takes that seasoning process. So there's no magic seeds. If you're thinking about franchising your business, you're going to be entering a whole new world, working with consultants, franchise lawyers, advisors, and you need to make strategic, smart decisions. And in this video, what we're going to discuss is how to avoid costly mistakes and false starts when you're franchising your business. And the key takeaway is going to be to empower you and put yourself in the driver's seat. Coming up next, when you franchise your business, it's not a destination, it's a journey, it's not an end point. In many ways, it's a starting point. And if we're going to begin with the end in mind, the goal is to build enterprise value, to grow your business, open up new locations with potentially franchisee partners, do it the right way, increase overall sales of your organization, create new revenue streams, and grow. So franchising works, and it could work very well. But when you become a franchisor, when you enter the franchise space, when you're making the decision of franchising your business, how do you know if you're doing it right? How do you know if you're working with the right teams? How do you know if you're spending the right amount of capital for the right resources? And most important, what you don't know. Sometimes, how do you know if you're going in the wrong direction and you may be stuck or missing out on opportunity and time? So we're going to discuss some fundamentals here that you should be thinking about as you evaluate franchising, as you decide what franchise lawyer or franchise consultant or who to work with on your franchise growth strategy, both today and in the future. And the key points we're going to go into is number one, understanding that franchising, it's a legal relationship. We want to put you in the driver's seat. Two, as a new franchisor, you want to be empowered. Learn what you don't know and make strategic decisions where you spend your capital efficiently. And once you do become a franchisor, just like planting a seed, it's going to take time to grow and time to be nurtured. So we want to talk about what a success framework and platform looks like. So let's start at the top. You franchise your business, you're entering a new world. The core fundamentals of becoming a franchisor, your franchise disclosure document, your franchise agreements, your trademarks, setting up your franchise company, becoming legally compliant. Franchising your business, it's predominantly a legal process, and you want to enter the franchise world the right way. Of course, not everything's all legal. We have to enter the marketplace the right way in terms of how your brand is positioned. But key takeaways here are the following. Number one, your FDD. It's not just paperwork. There's important legal structure we're putting in place. Number one, before we get started, we're even evaluating, should you franchise, right? What does your industry look like? Unit economics, and most important, your goals as a founder. Two, as we're developing the FDD, it's governed by federal law and state laws. And so many times, if you're doing research, you may have confusion. A franchise consultant versus a franchise lawyer. Even some consultants run ads when it says franchise lawyer and you click and it gets to their website and says, hey, why use a franchise lawyer when you could use a whole team? I think the important part here is that franchising is a legal process. Your FDD needs to comply with federal and state law, and you need a good franchise attorney, someone who's experienced and dedicated to setting up franchise systems and working with franchisors. So to the next point, as we're preparing your legal documents and getting you ready to become a franchisor, to go from where you are today to having franchised your business and being legally ready to sell franchises, you need to rely on the team you're working with to share insights and strategy, based on the clients they represent, what they see working in the franchise marketplace. When legal disputes do arise, what triggers those disputes? How are they resolved? And what are the things franchisors wish they knew along the way to avoid disputes and franchise the right way? So when we're franchising a business, we're preparing the FDD, FDD. We're preparing the entire legal structure. You definitely need an attorney to do that. You want to work with someone who's experienced and understands how to bring you to market, how we set up your franchise fees, your territory structures, structure your financial performance representations, everything that your FDD is going to present as you enter the franchise world itself is to put yourself in the driver's seat when you become a franchisor. Understand first and foremost, franchising is a legal relationship and you need to get the legal right. What you'll also see is sometimes consultants or other parties, they act like middlemen where they're running significant pay-per-click ads or other advertisements. They want you to hire them to franchise your business. And a key distinction there is there's some really good consultants and development companies out there for sure. But be cautious. Some may be middlemen where they say, we're going to refer you to our attorneys, or we have attorneys we could refer to, and we're going to prepare operations manuals and a franchise sales process. Many of these consultants, all these team members, they're independent contractors. If you get your FDD right, you become a franchisor, you've already taken that first big leap. And now rather than spending capital on middlemen or maybe inefficient things, you're in the driver's seat and you could evaluate on a case-by-case basis. Who's a good partner to work with on sales? What's a good marketing source? Where should I be spending my dollars? And because it's not combined into the franchising process itself, you can make very cost-effective decisions and put yourself in the driver's seat. Which gets to the second point, seeing behind the curtain and empowering yourself. When we're talking with our clients, one of the most rewarding things is that we'll have clients that franchise their business, and then 2-3 years later, we'll be at a conference with them and they'll be speaking about their journey and helping educate other franchisors. When you enter the franchise world, it's like anything else you don't know. And when you peel back the curtain, it's business like everything else. We have to follow a price process. We want to be legally compliant. Once we become a franchisor, we're going to focus on your organic leads and converting those first couple of franchisees. You're going to be building your skills and knowledge, and you learn franchising is not rocket science. It's just good business. And so you want to be empowered. Once you see behind the curtains, once you become a franchisor, enter it the right way, well, you could start making smart strategic decisions and avoid wasting capital. And whether that's working with us, other great franchise attorneys, or other teams out there, don't pre-purchase everything in one big package, right? Everyone's selling you everything, even though consultants can't do legal, strategy, operations manuals, franchise sales process, budgets, because all of those things, if they're developed up front, they almost become static. They're not living, they can't be evaluated. The key secret is, or an important reality is that just like planting a seed, think about when you become a franchisor, sure, you may be legally ready to sell franchises 90 to 120 days, but that seed needs to take root. It needs to be nurtured. So look at your becoming a franchisor as the first 12 to 24 months. In the first 120 days, you're legally ready to become a franchise. You could start offering and selling franchises. We're going to talk about organic growth, where we recommend focus on people that know your brand, your customers. Focus on those first couple of franchise sales. And along the way, as you're doing it, you're going to learn more about the process. You as a founder, you're not just relying on consultants or lawyers. You're going to learn the process so you could make smart decisions. Part of those smart decisions are going to be along the way to keep improving your franchise sales website, to prepare your franchise brand story, shoot some video, find out that the original video wasn't the best, so you start revising it. You're going to grow along the way, hopefully come to some conferences and events like our Friend Camp conference, and that's going to empower you so we can make good decisions. When you pre-purchase everything up front, you may be wasting capital. You may be getting generic documents and strategy. Why? Because strategy needs to evolve. And so many times I see new franchisors like, Charles, I franchised 2 years ago. I worked with a consultant. I paid X dollars. I'm not gaining traction. Maybe the consultant was great, but the problem I see is the founder took a plug and play approach because maybe the consultant made him feel like that, or created expectations like, you hire us, everything's taken care of, we're going to help you succeed. But the problem is, after they become a franchisor, the founder wasn't engaged enough and they didn't keep continuously revising and improving. FDD structure, franchise sales marketing, franchise sales website, feedback from the discovery process and how things are happening. And then you learning more about the industry so you can make smart decisions, which gets to avoiding the growth trap, right? That, what I just described, is a franchise growth gap or a growth trap. Franchisors, or they enter the franchise space, spend all this money, and some consultants will tell them, we're going to provide you the relationships to succeed. We're going to help you sell franchises. We're going to do all these things, and you end up buying it all up front. And maybe that's good. Many times it's not. And the reason why is because your relationship needs to evolve. You need to learn more in the industry. And for you, you're at a very vulnerable point because now you're relying on someone and you're going to go on this journey for maybe 2 years and you're not going to know if you're on the wrong pathway. How do I know that? We'll have conversations where people reach out and they'll say, Charles, I franchised 2 years ago. I hired the consultant. I did what they said. If I hire a coach, I'm going to follow what the coach says. So I follow their playbook. We had our FDD. I hired their marketing company. We qualified their leads. I spent money on lead generation. I paid for coaching. And then 2 years later, they realized they didn't go in the right direction. How do they know 2 years later? Because they sense it. I don't have the sales I wanted. The promises don't align with the expectations. My capital is now drained. And when we look behind the cover or look behind the scenes, so many foundational items weren't prepared, not prepared properly, but they weren't structured, innovative way designed to help a new franchisor scale and grow. What do I mean? They've been in the franchise world 2 years. They paid for all these leads. They didn't get conversions, but we look at the website, it's positioned generically. And so why didn't that consultant change that along the way? And this new franchisor didn't know it wasn't positioned the right way. There was nothing unique, no founder story, or they spent money in markets and channels, whether it's working with franchise brokers who could be amazing, but they weren't ready for them. So maybe the marketing sources or the PR sources were valuable, but for this brand, they weren't ready for it yet. They didn't build their brand foundation. They didn't get those first 1 or 2 franchisees to validate and build around. So the point being is you need to be empowered. We need to be capital efficient and you need to season your franchise offering, right? It's like planting that seed. You could plant a seed today. You could only water it so much, right? Eventually you may drown it or you may waste water. Same thing when you're franchising. We see clients where, maybe they feel stuck and they say, Charles, what do you think about this? This consultant said they'll handle all my sales. They'll do everything for me. They want X dollars a month and we're going to sell 20 franchises in the next 24 months. I'm like, well, you've only sold 3 so far. And then I ask how much money you're going to spend on marketing. I'd expect to hear a large number and they give me a low number. And if I get a really low number, like $2,500 a month, I'm concerned right out of the gate. Is that consultant really giving a low number on the outbound spending because they want the franchisor to pay that monthly consulting fee? And if they're being genuine, maybe the number needs to be much more. But my bigger point to the client is, even if the consultant is great, and even if you have all this capital to spend, as a new franchisor, if you have no franchisees or just 1 or 2, you need to nurture those franchisees, make them successful so they validate, have good unit economics. And that's the time to add more water, add more fuel, add more marketing spend. So you can't rush it. So avoiding costly mistakes, avoiding false starts when you franchise your business. Number 1, you will put yourself in the driver's seat if you view franchising as a legal relationship first. I'm not saying it's everything, but your FDD, your franchise agreements, how you enter the market the right way, your trademarks, your corporate formation, get it set in the right way, get your foundation done. Become a franchisor. If you're working with a good franchise lawyer, they have relationships, they have experience with other brands that they'll connect you with. You now entered the franchise space, so you're not buying pre-packages of everything. Next step, though, now that you're in the driver's seat, you're empowered. As you start evaluating your first 1, 2, or 3 franchisees, you learn more about the discovery process, where you're good, where you're not good, where you need more support. Well, at that stage, you're already a franchisor. You're not paying middlemen. You can now make strategic decisions. Do I work with a certain consultant? Do I work with a broker group? How do I scale this up? What should I expect? What should I expect to get from my dollars? And how to do this cost effectively? Because capital is critical. We don't want blowouts. We want long-term wins, right? Next is you need to understand it takes that seasoning process. So there's no magic seeds. What we're doing now as a franchise, it's going to take time to develop, which gets to that 5-year strategy, beginning with the end in mind. You want to create enterprise value. You want to create a new organization. You want to increase sales and expand your brand. Well, franchising is the first step, but it's a process. And view the first 24 months as the seasoning process. You become a franchisor legally. You enter the franchise world. You see behind the curtain and learn franchising. Come to some conferences. Focus on the organic reach of your franchise brand, people that know you, customers, social media, outreach, qualify those first 1, 2, or 3 franchisees, build around them, make them stronger, see where you've had struggles or issues in the franchise sales process, what you need to amplify on your discovery materials, your presentations, what you need to change on your website, what franchisee candidates are asking and that you can't answer. Come to some conferences, meet brokers, meet other franchisors. If you do that in the first 24 months, you're nurturing this new business that you're creating and you're putting yourself in the driver's seat. You're spending your capital efficient. You're avoiding wasting money on middlemen. And most important, we're trying to minimize or avoid a false start, a growth gap, misdirection where you're wasting time. There's amazing people in the franchise industry, but you as a founder need to be in the driver's seat. And I'd start with legal first, enter the right way, and work with the right team. And you're going to be putting yourself a step ahead and super efficient on how you're spending your capital and your strategy. Hope the video helps.